Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 2 Christopher Sharp. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcasts of this ceremony across Australia. And during this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, I invite you all to please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozzi, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Second Lieutenant Leonard Lambert Pozzi. Leonard Pozzi was born on the 28th of January 1892 to Valerio and Elizabeth Pozzi of the Melbourne suburb of Fitzroy. He was named for his grandfather, Leonardo Pozzi, who had been born in Canton, Ticino, in Switzerland. Leonardo had come to Australia in 1855 and worked to establish a silk growing industry in Australia and New Zealand. His grandson, Leonard, grew up in Bendigo, where he attended the Gravel Hill State School. The family later moved back to Fitzroy, where Leonard's father ran a bicycle building workshop. After completing his education, Leonard undertook an apprenticeship as a mechanical engineer in Fitzroy. He went on to work at the Newport workshops as a turner and was a member of the Amalgamated Society of Engineers. Leonard Pozzi's abiding passion was the military. He served with the No. 1 Battalion of Senior Cadets in Melbourne, and once the compulsory service scheme came in, he became a lieutenant in the Collingwood Fitzroy Military District. In 1914, he passed an examination for his captaincy, and it was recorded he devoted practically all of his spare time to his military duties. Leonard Pozzi's career as a captain in the senior cadets was cut short by the declaration of war in Europe in August 1914. Less than 2 weeks later, he enlisted for service in the Australian Imperial Force and was posted to the 6th Battalion. He left for active service overseas with the rank of sergeant 2 months later, stopping briefly in Albany, Western Australia, before sailing on to Egypt. Sergeant Pozzi spent his 23rd birthday training in Egypt. In one of his last letters home, he sent a photograph of himself sporting a new moustache. With clear indications that he would soon be in action, he wrote his last letter home. "I wonder how the men under my care will act and how I will act." He added that he was still alive and kicking and enjoying myself, but might be a long time away. "I may not send you another card for a long time." On the 25th of April 1915, the 6th Battalion landed on Gallipoli as part of the second wave. Private Gordon Craig, originally of Hawthorn, later wrote to Pozzi's parents to say, "On the day of our landing, your son did such good work and showed so much bravery." As a result, within days, Pozzi was commissioned in the field. In early May, the 6th Battalion was withdrawn with the rest of the 2nd Australian Brigade and the New Zealand Brigade and sent south to Cape Helles to assist British and French troops in an attack on the village of Krithia. Krithia had already been attacked on the 28th of April, but the operation had quickly broken down in the face of a strong defence and poor planning. This renewed assault was launched on the 6th of May, and over subsequent days, more and more waves of infantry were sent into a battlefield that was swept by Turkish fire. The Second Battle of Krithia failed to capture its objectives, and the attackers suffered heavy casualties. After reaching a series of advanced English trenches, the order came: "Australians, prepare to advance." Private Goodall recalled, "There was a moment's silence, then the Australians as one man sprang forward." The men became scattered, with many left behind as casualties, but Lieutenant Pozzi pushed on to the foremost English-held trench before mustering his men into another advance. Private Goodall was with this group and recalled, "Mr. Pozzi was leading us, but I'm sorry to say that it was here in this rush that Lieutenant Pozzi fell. It was quite the worst part of the advance, and it is simply a miracle how any of us got through it all. When we stopped again and realised that Mr. Pozzi had fallen, I went back with the intention of getting him under cover. When I reached him, he was lying on his face, so I turned him over and loosened his equipment. He had a wound in his chest, and as I was bandaging him up, he said to me, "It's no good, Goodall. I am done. Will you carry on?" I said I would, as I could see he only had a few minutes to live. He was then contented and spent his last moments in prayer with his God. I distinctly heard him ask God to bless his people and all the boys. Needless to say, we lost a terrible lot of our best men, amongst them Lieutenant Pozzi. Private Gordon Craig wrote to Leonard's parents to say, "We buried him on a hill facing the sea and put a cross over his grave with the words, 'In loving memory of Lieutenant Pozzi, who was killed in action on May 8. He added, "Although we knew it must be a terrible shock to you, yet we also know that you have every reason to be proud of your son, whom everyone that knew him loved and respected. He met his death as every honourable man might wish, that is, fighting for his king and country." Lieutenant Pozzi's grave was lost later in fighting, and today he is commemorated on the Hellas Memorial, not far from where he was killed. He was 23 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Second Lieutenant Leonard Lambert Pozzi, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozzi or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.